Welcome to my YouTube channel. You will love it here. Drop your questions in the comment section and I will respond to it.
In this video, I'll be showing you how I drafted and cut out these coral color flared trousers. The material I used is very stretchy. It's more like a lycra, and that is why it's giving that bouncing effect you're seeing. Let's get right into it. I'll be drafting my trouser blocks separately. That is, the front and the back will be drafted separately on my piece of paper. I'm writing down the measurement. My trouser length is 45. That is normal trouser length 42 plus extra 3, 4, 5 as you desire. My hip is 40. My waist is 32. My crotch length is 12.5, but I later used 12 inches. Yeah, so I'm confirming the length of my paper. My hip line is 9 inches. I just marked the hip line there. If you know your skirt block well, you know your skirt block as the waistline, which is the very first line, the beginning of the paper. Then you have the hip line next, and then you mark your crotch length. Crotch length is usually hip line or hip depth plus about 2.5. Is that okay? So I have my waistline, which is the beginning of the paper. I have my hip depth, which is 9 inches, and I have my crotch length, which is 12 inches. Yeah. And then the full length of my paper is 45. Yes. So on the waistline, on the hip line, I'll be marking. I'm still trying to confirm my measurements. It's very important to be sure of your measurement. And then I'm labeling crotch depth, hip depth, and the waistline here. So on my hip line, my hip is 40. On my hip line, I'll be measuring 40 divided by 4. 40 divided by 4. That's the measurement of my hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch. The 1 inch is for seam allowance. And then I'll mark that, which is 10 plus 1. I'll mark that. Yes, I'll extend that same line. That is 10 plus 1, which is 11. I'll bring it down to my crotch depth. Again, 40, which is my hip measurement, divided by 4 plus 1. I measured it on my hip line and then brought it down to my crotch depth here. So, on the crotch length, I'll be taking the measurement of my tie, my round tie. My round tie is 24. For the tie, it is divided by 12. It is divided by 2, not 4. My tie measurement is divided by 2, not 4. Just like your sleeve, round sleeve is divided by 2. So my round tie is 24, divided by 2 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. So I'll be taking the measurement 13 inches on my crotch length. So we see what I'm doing here. I'm connecting that line, that hip, divided by 4 plus 1, which is 11. I connected it from the waistline to the hip to the crotch length. That's the straight line you are seeing there. So, and then the curve ruler is joined together from the waist to the extension of the crotch. That is 13 inches. So 13 inches is where the curve ends on the crotch line. And then I'll be getting the midpoint of that 13 inches on my crotch line, which is the line I just drew. That is on that crotch length, on that crotch line, I have 13 inches. How did I get 13 inches? 24 divided by 2, which is 12, plus 1, that's 13. So 13 divided by 2 again is 6.5. So the center line that I drew all the way to the knee length is drawn at 6.5. You find a way to make it a straight line and take it all the way down. So I will bring the 13 inches of my crotch. I'll also bring it down with a straight line. It goes all the way down, straight line. Yeah, that's 13. I'll take it down 13. That's what I'm doing now. I make a straight line. Yeah. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask in the comment section. So I'll be doing a tummy curve. That's what I just marked. My tummy curve is 0.75, and I connected it to my center front. Can you see the curve on the center front? That curve is just my waist measurement taken on the waistline. My waist is 32 divided by 4, which is 8, plus 1. I measure it from the crotch line, from that line that I drew with the armhole curve. I measured it to get my 9 inches. How did I get 9 inches? 32 divided by 8, my waist measurement divided by 4, which is 8 plus 1, then I got 9. Yeah, that is I'm cutting out the shape. I won't cut out my tummy curve now. That's the waist measurement I just cut out. And then the center line, that center line that I brought down from the crotch depth, I have marked it with a red marker. It's going to be cut out later. And that is where I'm going to be adding fullness to my trousers, that center line. So I'm placing my front block on another paper, which is my back pattern. I'm placing the front block that I just drafted on the back pattern. And the back pattern has to be longer than the front pattern. I'm sorry the camera is not able to capture that area well. It's always about 3 inches higher on the waistline. It's always about 3 inches higher than the front pattern. So 3 inches higher or less. So for me, if 40, I will be using 1.5 inches to extend my back pattern, which I already added the extra paper. So from that 1.5 instruction, I will just connect that crotch line. The crotch line, I will raise it up, and then look at where my hand is currently. I added 1.25 to the crotch line. To the curve, that curve, we had 13 in the front block. So now I've extended it on the back pattern by 1.25, and that is the straight line I'm drawing. I took the 1.25 straight down and I drew out the curve. Yes, I drew out the curve. So it is that 1.25. I will connect with the extra 1.5 that makes the back pattern longer. Yeah, 1.5 that made the back pattern longer. I added it to the extension of 1.25 and then connected with a straight line. Got the midpoint. I think it is 14 inches. I got the midpoint at 7. On that 7 midpoint, I drew a curve of I went in by 0.75 and then drew a curve for the back pattern. Everything I'm doing now is on the back pattern, and I'm cutting it out right now. Look at the way I'll be taking my curve. Yeah, so I said I deepened it by 0.75 on the back pattern. My crotch, the way you draw your curve in the front is different from the way you draw it on the back. So look at me now. The two papers are on each other, the front and the back, and then I'm trying to create fullness for my trousers. Look at that. So just slashing at the center like that alone is not enough to create fullness for your trouser. So there's something else I'll be doing, and you need to watch closely. So we want the fullness on the leg area only, not on the hip area, not on the waist area. We want that fullness on the, from the hip line, from the crotch level, from the crotch depth. That is where we want the fullness. And that is why we slash from the knee to the crotch depth level. Now I've gone ahead to place my front pattern on my fabric. I'll be adding extra 1.5 inch on my fabric for seam allowance. I didn't add it to the 45 inches length that I originally wrote down. So now I'll be adding extra 1.5 on my fabric for seam allowance, and then place it. Yeah. Can you see that I left space on both sides of my paper. Yes, I'll be slashing that way. But it's not easy to slash. Can you see it's bulging? It's folding. So look at what I'm going to do for easy spread, so that my paper, my pattern can spread out easily. Remember, our fullness is just on the leg area, and it's not going to affect the hip. It's not going to affect the crotch area. So this is how to add fullness on the leg area alone. I already added fabric. When I was placing the pattern, I made sure there's about 4 inches length space on the left and on the right of my block pattern. So I returned it so that you see that there was space on both sides, and then I'm spreading. See the way I slashed it at where my other hand is. Yes. So I spread it, I slashed it for easy, so that it can spread out easily instead of folding the other time. The way it folded the other time is not proper. You will lose some measurement. You will lose part of your length. But with the way I slashed it at this crotch depth area, I am rest assured that I have fullness on my pants, the leg area, and it's not going to affect my crotch depth. Neither is it going to affect my hip length. And that is how to add fullness for your flare pant. It can be more, it can be less, depending on how wide you want it. Like I said, this material is a very stretchy material. Now I'm taking off the tummy curve. Why didn't I take it off before? Because I don't want it to affect the back pattern when I'm adding that extra extension I told you about, like the 3 inches extension or 1.5 extension. I don't want it to affect it. That is why I didn't cut it initially. So now I've cut it and I have my tummy curve. I've used the slash and spread method to add fullness to my trousers, and then I'll be cutting it out now. Like I said, yours can be less than this. It can be more than this. At the middle, where I have the spread, it's about 7 or 8 inches. At the center of the paper, where I have the spread, it's about 8 inches. Remember, I already added 4 on both sides when I placed my pattern on the fabric. And then you don't need to add anything again while cutting. You've added to your hip measurement. That is 40 divided by 4, 10 plus 1. You added 1 inch. To your crotch, 24 was my thigh, divided by 2 plus 1. You added your allowance as well. Your waist is 32, divided by 4, 8 plus 1, 9. I added allowances on all my measurements. So while cutting, feel free to cut it exactly like that on the paper. You don't have to add anything. The only thing I added was extra 1.5 inch at the hem for seam, for hemming inside. I didn't eventually use that allowance because I still wanted my trousers to be very long. So don't forget to like, drop your comments, share, and subscribe. My front pattern block is ready. Yes, the block is ready, the fabric is ready. Now let's go on to cut the back block. Just the way I added 1.5 inches for my hem allowance for the front pattern, I'll be doing the same for my back pattern. And then here I am placing my back block on my already folded into 2 fabric. I forgot to mention in the front block, your fabric must be folded into 2. So the same way, I left some about 4 to 5 inches on both sides. And then to spread, I've already slashed the center. To spread it out is not going to be easy, to be bulging, which is not going to be really nice. You will lose some measurement. And then I did another slash and spread on the crotch depth level to make it easier for my paper to spread out easily. and that is it. You cut it, let it remain just about, quarter of an inch to cut it through, and then you can easily spread out your pattern paper. And that is what I'm doing there. I said the spread out is about 7 to 8 inches. Yours can be less or more, depending on how you want your trousers to be full at the hem, depending on the amount of volume you want at the hem of your trousers. Yes, I'm measuring it here, and I have about 7 or 8 inches if I'm right. Yeah. So just like I said, all sewing allowances have been added to the pattern. I added allowance on my waist, I added on my hip, I added on the crotch to my thigh. So you don't have issues with adding anything while cutting. Just cut directly on the fabric and you are good to go. Now I'm about to cut. You can cut directly without having to add any further allowances. But if you still want it wider, fuller, feel free to add about 1.5 inch on both sides and connect to your crouch level. You can confirm your hip measurement, confirm your thigh measurement. If you feel they are not enough or you forgot to add your 1 inch at the beginning while drafting, you still have the opportunity to add your allowances. So that's it. Okay, so I'm cutting my pockets. I always love pockets on my trousers. The length of my pocket is 14 inches and the width, the wideness is 7.5. And I've just done that, marked it, and then cut it out. I am notching at the center. It's very important to notch at the center. It will be useful for you when you are sewing on the machine. So I used pin to hold it, and I'll be using the first one to cut the second one. The material is folded into two, as you can see. I'll place the first one on the second material that has been folded into two and use it to cut. I'll also notch it at the center. Okay, while the cutting of my pocket is going on, I would like to let you all know that I went ahead to cut the same trouser pattern for my daughter, for my 7-year-old daughter, and that is what I'll be using to show us how the trousers is sewn or joined together on the sewing machine. Mine will be too large on the sewing machine, so I decided to just use my little girl's trouser pattern to show you how it will be sewn on the sewing machine. It's the same style. I manipulated my own trouser pattern to create our own, and then it's going to have the same effect, same pockets, same way, and all of that. Then the pockets, you can see right here the way I'm placing it on top of each other, the two pockets. I'm placing it right side on the right side, ensuring that the notch, the where I notched, is aligning together. So I'm going to place the front pattern of my trousers, the front pattern of my trouser on my pockets. I will ensure that the curved part of my trouser matches with one side of the pockets, so that I will use the shaped part of that trouser to shape out one side of my trouser. You will understand that on the sewing machine when we are joining them together. This kind of pockets, you need to open up the pocket and then use the shape that the trouser has already taken. You use it to, shape it out. And that would be you securing the opening or the mouth of your pocket. So let's go on the sewing machine and see how these my flared trousers were joined together. Thank you. Here is the pattern of the little girl. I manipulated my block pattern to create our pattern pieces. This is the back pattern on the machine. That's the pattern pieces for the back. I'll be showing you the front pattern shortly. This is the front. And I'll be sewing the flap first. The flap with the zipper. Let's get started. I'm confirming the two pockets, right side on right side. Yeah, and the shape side. Look at how the pocket is going to come up. That's the mouth of the pocket. That slanted area is going to be the mouth of the pocket. Yes, so I'm confirming that, yeah, I did my cutting correctly. So let's put that aside and I'm going to show you the flap. Here is the flap. There are usually two flaps, 1.5 inches wide, and the other is 1 inch wide. So, and that's the zipper. I'm confirming the measurement, and that's why I cut off the excess on the 1 inch flap. 1 inch and then 1.5. The length is 6 inches. For adult, it is about 6 inches, 6.5 inches or 7 inches. So because the length is 6 inches, I'm going to be sewing on the crotch line. The crotch line is also the center line, the center front, that place that faces you. I mean, the center front. That's the crotch line. So I've marked 6 inches length, and that is where my sewing will be starting from. The sewing allowance is 0.5 inch. 0.5 inch. Then I'll sew from that 6 inches mark all the way down in a curve manner, and that's it. If you feel your sewing is not secured, it's not tight enough, you can sew twice, maintaining the same line. Okay, so I'm going to open up the front of the trouser. I'll pick up the 1 inch flap, place my zip on it, and then put it under folded 0.5 seam allowance of the left flap. You can see my left hand. I've opened up the front of the trouser. I folded 1/2 inch inside. You remember your seam allowance was just 0.5, so the remaining allowance that is not sewn, you fold it 0.5 inch inside. Put your zip on the 1 inch flap. Let the center front, or let the fold of the flap be facing the other side. So that means the opening of the 1 inch is right inside, is at the back. Is that understood? So I'm sewing all three together. That is the open trouser folded by 0.5, the zip under it, and the 1 inch flap. I've sewn the three together and I stop at the 6 inches opening. You may need to watch to be able to understand. So that is it. Yeah, if you want me to repeat or to just make a video on how flaps is sewn on trouser, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I'm going to take the 1.5 inch flap, place it on the 0.5 seam allowance remaining on the right hand side, and then I'll sew together the right hand side with the 1.5 inch flap. I just sew together with 0.5 and I'll stop at the 6 inches opening. Is that understood? It's very easy, just that you need a lot of practice. My advanced people in tailoring will understand, but for beginners, you need to practice and practice. So I've sewn that 3 together, that is the double 1.5 and the whole the 0.5 allowance. So I'm going to top stitch. I want to top stitch it internally, in a way that this top stitching will not show outside. So it's because the color of the fabric is just blending and you are not able to see. But I'm top stitching the sewing allowance. I'm ensuring it is outside and my needle is on it. So I top stitch all allowances together, all seam allowances. I've top stitched it together, and then look at what we have. That's it. So the sewing is not showing on the right side, so I just folded everything inside, and I'm covering up my zipper. I'm covering it up as if I'm already wearing it. It's already ready. So when I close it like that and I use my hand to secure it, then I held that 1-inch flap with the zip, the other half of the zip that is not sewn with the 1 inch, and I will sew it together now. Yeah, this fabric is a bit bulky, so I'm just trying to make sure everything lays properly. So I've put it together as if my zip is ready. It's not yet ready. As if my flap is ready. It's not yet ready. But I want to secure the 1.5 inch flap remaining with the zipper. So that's why I flipped it over to the other side, so that I can just sew that zip, the half part of that zip, and the 1.5 inch flap. Look at that. Look at it. You may need to do a lot of zooming. So it is opened now. If you want to wear your trouser, if you want to ease yourself, you can easily open and close. You need to open it and check. I hope I've not held down what I'm not supposed to hold down. You understand? Now the next thing is now to, sew it down, but ensure that all 3 meet at that place I'm putting pin. Yeah, you will still ensure that your flap is not sewn underneath. Your 1.5, your 1 inch flap is not sewn the way it's not supposed to be. You use your hand to push it backwards, but still ensuring that you sew all 3 together in a curved manner at the 6 inches allowance down there. Just watch. So yeah, take it in a curving manner now. Make sure all 3, you check, you confirm all 3 are sewn together. You may need to bring out one of your favorite trousers and see how these things are being done, and check and recheck and check and check and watch this video. Look at it. Yeah, the flap is not covering the zip, so that you can easily open your trousers. And I've cut out the excess zip because I am sure I have sewn it perfectly. So I'll go and iron it so that at least it can relax. The next thing to do is to sew my pockets. Yeah, the curved part on the curved part, right side on the right side, the curved part. Yeah, the length of this pocket is about 7.5 inches or 8 inches. For adult, it is 14 inches. For a little girl, is about 9 inches. 9 inches, because the opening of our pocket is 6 inches. So you don't want to do 8 inches. You want your pocket to have some depth. So let's do 9 inches for the length of the pocket, and the width is 6 inches. So I've just sewn the mouth of my pocket by 0.5. That is the curved parts of the trouser with the curved parts of the pocket. I joined together by 0.5 and I stopped at 6 inches. So because of the bulkiness of the material, no amount of ironing will make it relax. So I'm going to add hemming gum so that when I iron, it will just stay the way I want it. So that's it. Yeah, my advanced tailors will understand this. Hemming gum does the magic. Yeah, so I can give it a little notch. It's supposed to be a straight line, but it can be a bit curvy, and then when you notch, everything will relax with your hemming gum. So this is me trying now. I've notched that end of 6.5, where the mouth of my pocket stops. So I notch it with the other straight part of the pocket not the curved part alone, with the other straight part, and I flipped it inside out so that I can secure the inside of my pocket where my money, my key, my wallet can be. I'm going to secure it now. I know it's not really clear because of the color of the fabric, but please just try and watch. Take your time, rewind it, watch, and then you'll be glad you did. So that is my pocket getting ready, and look at that. Yeah, so the notch is important. That is the center of your pocket. So don't feel like you want the two tip to meet. No, you go with where the notch is, and that is your pocket already forming shape. I've gone to iron. The hemming gum has made the mouth of the pocket to relax, like I told you, and then I've used pin to hold the waist with that pocket so that it doesn't keep going back. And the other side is the curved part again with the curved part of the trousers. I'll stop at 6 inches. That is the mouth of my pocket. I sew with 0.5. You can't do beyond 0.5. If you do 1 inch, it will be too rough. So 0.5, you stop at 6 inches. You notch that place where you stop sewing together, and then you pick it up with the other end of your pocket and notch all three together. All three. It's actually 2 that you are supposed to notch, but if you don't understand, notch all 3 together, everything will still end up. Can you see? So yeah, I'm first of all going to add my hemming gum so that the mouth of my pocket can relax the way I want it. It's already a thick material. I don't want the mouth of the pocket to be bulky in any way. So hemming gum will do the magic. I'm going to notch right after now. I'll give it some notches so that it will relax. Yes. So remember I said you bring the 2 pockets together, the mouth of the other side, break it together, and then notch. Yes, so that you'll be able to easily flip it inside and secure your pocket. You flip it inside. Yeah, you flip it inside and secure your pocket. That's it. It's a bit technical, and that is why some people will rather make their trousers all straight, put elastic on the waist, and they won't put pockets. Or there's another method of fixing pocket, but this is the tailored way. It's technical, but it's the neatest. Yeah, it's technical, but it's always very neat. You would love it. So I've gone ahead to secure where my money will be kept in my pockets. Yeah, so I'll just trim off the little excess so that doesn't be in my way. It doesn't stand in my way while I'm trying to perfect my pocket. So I'm going to show you the outcome again now, and then the 2 pockets are almost ready. That's it. The material is stretchy, is drawing. It's really giving me a tough time, but I'm getting hold of it. I've gone to iron. I've ironed the flap area. It has relaxed a bit. I've ironed the pocket area. Look at that. I'm trying to show the camera. Yeah, so I've used pin to secure them at the waist while I bring my back pattern. The back, all I need to do to the back is just to join the crotch at the back. Just join with 0.5. Just join together, and that's it. You don't need any opening at the back. All the opening you need is already in front. Yeah, if you want a zipper at the back of your trouser in case of jumpsuits, that means you will close up the front pattern of your trouser and leave the opening at the back because you want a zipper at the back. So that's all you need to do for the back. Just join together with 0.5, and then you place it right side to right side with the front, and then you join by the side, join on one side, carefully join on the other side, ensuring that all pockets are tucked in appropriately, and then your trouser is already coming to shape. So that's the front pattern placed on the machine, the back placed on it, join with 0.5. You can hold with pin to first of all look at what you are doing, hold with pin, yeah, and then join all the way by 0.5. Where we have the pocket, I always try to backstitch on those places so that I am sure everything is well tucked in. So join with 0.5 all the way down to the hem. The same thing you do to a little girl's trouser, you do to the adult one. So I prefer to use this as an example for sewing because it is not really big. So that is the other side. Join it as well with 0.5. Sew it well. Ensure your machine stitches are neat and tight. So join all the way down to the hem, and that is it. Trouser is very simple. Once you're able to cut it well, you have no issues with the joining. So I've joined both sides now. What I have left is the inner leg. I'm going to show you that shortly. So I've joined the two sides of my trousers. What I have left now is the inner leg. Look at that. I'm flipping it inside out. Look at that. That's this one side that I've joined, the other side, and then the front. This is the back. This is the back, and then the front. That's the pockets coming out. That's the flap with the zipper, and then I am left with the inner leg. That's it. Inner leg. Just join with 0.5 all the way from the end of one M to the end of the other M. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave it down in the comment section, and remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The next thing we need to do now is to cut